A shy Filipino contestant walked onto the Ireland's Got Talent stage with humble confidence, unaware that he was about to deliver one of the most unforgettable performances the show had seen. The judges, including the famously hard-to-impress Simon Cowell, greeted him with curiosity but no major expectations, as his gentle demeanor and modest introduction suggested a simple audition. However, the moment the music began and he released the first note, the atmosphere in the entire studio shifted. His voice carried the depth, charisma, and velvet richness reminiscent of Elvis Presley, not as an imitation but with a soulful authenticity that stunned everyone present. Audience members who were politely silent at first began to sit up, whisper, and widen their eyes in disbelief. As he continued singing, his tone remained powerful and controlled, capturing the spirit of Elvis with a performance that felt both nostalgic and unique. Midway through the song, cheers and claps rippled across the audience, and some spectators stood up, cheering as if they were at a concert rather than an audition. Even the judges exchanged shocked glances, one placing a hand over her mouth as if reacting to a twist in a movie. Simon, known for his skepticism, leaned forward, visibly intrigued, his expression shifting from mild curiosity to genuine amazement. By the time the final note rang out, the studio erupted into a standing ovation, and the applause thundered across the room. Simon, often sparing with praise, actually laughed in disbelief and clapped enthusiastically, acknowledging that the singer's performance might have surpassed expectations of what an Elvis tribute could be. The contestant, overwhelmed and emotional, stood in awe as the cheers continued, his voice having not only shocked the judges but also won the hearts of an entire audience in a moment of pure talent and magic. A soft-spoken Filipino contestant stepped onto the Ireland's Got Talent stage with quiet confidence, giving the judges and audience little indication of the impact he was about to make. His demeanor was modest, and his introduction was simple, prompting only mild curiosity from the panel, including the notoriously critical Simon Cowell. The atmosphere in the studio was calm and expectant, but not overly excited. Then the music started, and from the very first note, everything changed. His voice rang out with a richness and tone that immediately echoed the legendary sound of Elvis Presley, not as a mere imitation, but as a heartfelt, powerful, and skillful performance. Audience members, initially relaxed and quiet, began to straighten in their seats, exchanging glances of disbelief. Some whispered to each other, surprised that such a voice could come from someone so unassuming. As the performance continued, his vocal control, clarity, and emotion captivated the entire room. Midway through the song, applause began to break out unprompted. People started clapping in rhythm, and a few stood up before the performance was even finished. The judges looked at each other in amazement, one covered her mouth in surprise, while another shook his head as if he couldn't believe what he was hearing. Simon, who had been leaning back at first, gradually leaned forward, eyes fixed on the performer, his expression transforming from casual interest to genuine astonishment. When the final note landed flawlessly, the crowd erupted into a full standing ovation. The applause was loud and sustained, and the judges rose to their feet alongside the audience. Simon even laughed in disbelief as he clapped, a rare moment of open admiration, hinting that the performance might not only match Elvis, but perhaps exceed expectations entirely. The contestant stood on stage overwhelmed and emotional, his voice having stunned not just the judges, but the entire room in a moment of unforgettable talent. A humble and soft-spoken Filipino contestant stepped onto the Ireland's Got Talent stage with quiet confidence, his demeanor modest and unassuming. He introduced himself politely, speaking gently and without theatrics. The judges, including the famously hard-to-impress Simon Cowell, observed him with mild curiosity but no major expectations. The audience was calm and respectful, expecting a typical audition rather than a showstopper. Nothing in his appearance or introduction hinted at the extraordinary moment that was about to unfold. The lights dimmed slightly, the music began, and all eyes shifted to the stage with polite anticipation. From the first note, the energy in the room transformed. His voice emerged with stunning clarity, depth, and a velvety tone that instantly evoked the legendary sound of Elvis Presley. It wasn't a mere impersonation, it was soulful, powerful, and alive with emotion. Audience members who moments earlier were relaxed and neutral suddenly straightened in their seats. Some widened their eyes, others whispered in disbelief. As he continued singing with flawless control and authenticity, murmurs turned into cheers. The judges exchanged surprised glances, visibly taken aback by the unexpected brilliance of his performance. One judge covered her mouth in shock, while another leaned forward as if trying to process what they were hearing. By the time he reached the final part of the song, the room was fully electrified. Applause began even before the performance ended, and as he delivered the final note with perfection, the entire audience erupted into a standing ovation. People clapped wildly, some cheering as if attending a live concert instead of a talent show audition. Simon Cowell, often reserved and critical, leaned back with a stunned smile before applauding enthusiastically, a rare gesture of genuine admiration. He even let out a small laugh of disbelief, acknowledging that the contestant's performance might not just rival Elvis, but surpass expectations altogether. The contestant, overwhelmed and emotional, stood in awe as the cheers washed over him, having unexpectedly captured the hearts of everyone in the room. A quiet and soft-spoken Filipino contestant stepped onto the Ireland's Got Talent stage, his demeanor humble and unassuming. He introduced himself with politeness and without fanfare, giving the audience and judges little reason to expect anything extraordinary. The panel, including the famously skeptical Simon Cowell, regarded him with mild curiosity but no strong anticipation. The crowd remained calm and respectful, prepared for an ordinary audition rather than a moment that would captivate the entire room. With the stage lights set and the music ready to begin, the atmosphere was neutral, almost understated. The first note changed everything. As soon as he began to sing, his voice filled the theater with a richness and tone that instantly evoked memories of Elvis Presley. It wasn't just imitation, it carried emotional depth, purity, and control that commanded attention. Audience members who had been sitting casually suddenly straightened, eyes widening in surprise. Conversations faded into silence as people turned to one another in disbelief. The clarity of his voice and the effortless way he held each note created a sense of awe that few contestants ever managed to achieve. As the performance continued, the reaction intensified. The judges exchanged stunned looks, visibly impressed and taken aback. One judge covered her mouth, while another leaned forward to listen more closely. Simon, known for his high standards, shifted from detached observation to focused attention. The audience, who moments earlier had been quietly observing, began to murmur approvingly and clap along. Some rose from their seats early, unable to contain their excitement as his voice soared through the melody with remarkable precision and passion. When he delivered the final note, the entire studio erupted. The audience leapt to their feet in a powerful standing ovation, cheering and applauding with overwhelming enthusiasm. The judges followed suit, rising in recognition of his exceptional talent. Simon Cowell, often sparing with praise, clapped while smiling in disbelief, acknowledging that the performance may have surpassed even the loftiest expectations. The contestant stood on stage, emotional and humbled, taking in the roaring applause as he realized he had moved an entire room with his voice. A modest and soft-spoken Filipino contestant stepped onto the Ireland's Got Talent stage with quiet confidence and a humble demeanor. He introduced himself politely, speaking gently and without drama, giving no indication that anything extraordinary was about to happen. The judges, including Simon Cowell, well known for his critical eye, listened with mild curiosity but held no strong expectations. The audience watched respectfully, anticipating a typical audition rather than a standout moment. Overwhelmed by emotion, one of the judges slams the golden buzzer. Golden confetti rains down as Antonio remains seated, stunned and teary-eyed. Simon walks across the stage, wipes his eyes, and shakes Antonio's hand with deep respect. Afterward, backstage interviews and social media quickly spread his story. Fellow contestants and staff approach him with admiration, calling him an inspiration. He becomes known as the heart of AGT Manila, not because of wealth or fame, but because of the soul he revealed through his music.